So I don't know if this is what went wrong or what went right. I'm a little bit ambivalent about the angle here, but I think it's fascinating nonetheless. There's a promoted complaints, let's call it. So a guy named Hassan Syed bought Twitter promoted tweets to complain about British Airways losing his father's luggage. The guy spent, so I mean, first of all, let's just say that this is an example of virtual temper tantrums, right? I mean, airlines lose luggage all the time. It's part of the deal, you know. It's going to happen to you occasionally in your life. But this guy bought $1,000 worth of promoted tweets. He got 76,800 impressions of British Airlines followers with those promoted tweets. He said he got 14,600 engagements for an 18.7% engagement return. He got earned media. There's a lot of news coverage of this story. He was interviewed on CNN. It took British Airways 8 hours from the time he promoted his first tweet to the time the airline responded. So there's that. There's a customer service issue here. But it's fascinating to me, beyond all that, that we're living in an age of individual warfare, where we now have the ability for an individual to take on a company like this at relatively low expense. However, because for lost luggage, $1,000 is a high bar for me anyway. But then we've got other examples: the Syrian Electronic Army taking on the Western civilization through online, hacking. Julian Assange taking on the U.S. government. We've got the tools now for an individual to really wage warfare on whoever they want. It's fairly stunning.
Well, but I think the bottom line on some of this is that, when somebody feels the way, I don't see how you can compare the lost luggage guy to the Syrian army thing, but when somebody feels that way and they are willing to go and spend that $1,000 and make that much noise because all they really wanted was to be acknowledged to begin with by, there's something wrong at the company. You nailed it when you said it took them 8 hours. I mean, I used to run a consumer complaint handling service. People paid me to listen to them. I was a cross between a shrink and a lawyer, and I was cheaper and more effective. All people wanted was for somebody to say, I'm so sorry that happened to you, let's fix it. And that's, smart companies do that.
Yeah, so, well, I would say there's a given, and clearly if it took them that long to respond to this, there's something broken there. It's a given that companies should be listening and should be responding to consumer problems. My question, and I don't know the answer to it in this particular case, it seems like he just went and bought tweets and started attacking without trying to resolve it through, and that's sort of a virtual temper tantrum to me. It's like, come on. I mean, if you've got a problem, try and resolve it with the company. Without just
but
going
we don't
ahead.
know that he didn't.
We don't. That's true. But I think there's a lot of that going on as people take first their frustration. They go first to Twitter and start stomping around without trying to resolve their issue, reasonably. So
I'm going to give up my what went wrong just to carry on this conversation, and we'll do my what went wrong next week. But I think the point that you're making is you cannot assume, BL, that just because somebody complains, they're right. And I think what we've created is a society where whiners and accusers get the benefit of the doubt. And that is going to have a backlash.
I understand what you're saying, but, the vast majority of people have a legitimate complaint. And so there are going to be whiners. There were always whiners. There are going to be people who don't have a legitimate complaint. But the fact that people have the tools now to be heard and that companies have to listen, this is mind-blowing how this has changed. How a guy that nobody ever heard of, and where was the kid with the pen that showed you could get into the bicycle lock like 15 years ago, who started all of this? The fact that somebody could do that, could have the tools to do that, any company that's not listening at this point has its head in a place where the sun's not shining. So, yes, there are going to be whiners, absolutely, and there always will be. But the fact that, you know, the little guy who's being wronged, and there are a lot of those, can be heard is pretty cool, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I also think, just one last thing to add on, we shouldn't extend this too far, but
Yeah.
I feel like if I have a complaint with a company, I am reluctant to go the social media route because I'm usually better at it than the company I'm complaining about. And it feels like an unfair advantage, you know, that I'm using my knowledge and expertise to. So, you know, I'll try and work around as many possible ways as possible. If then they don't get it taken care of, then I'll go the last mile.
Well, I agree with that, but, you know, I end up on social media almost every time because there is no response until you do.
Yeah, well, that's a broken.
So David's
broken
page, David's blog is e-strategyblog.com, where he'll have more on the topics on this show and other topics. B.L. Ochman is at whatsnextblog.com, also contributes to Ad Age, so check her blog out, whatsnextblog.com, contributor to Ad Age, and also on Twitter at What's Next. I'm Albert Marugi at providentpartners.net and on Twitter at Albert Marugi. Thanks so much for watching the Beyond Social Media show. Subscribe, comment on our channel, and head on over to our Google Plus page where we put some of the links to the topics we've talked about today. Thanks so much.